This conference will now be recorded.
Okay, good afternoon and welcome to a special training session. This today's session is devoted to going through and discussing and showing the benefits of using the technical indicators VWAP or VWAP, volume weighted average price, and something we've recently added, which are weekly pivots. I am recording this session. It will be posted to the equity-alerts.com YouTube page. Before we get started, I do want to ask everybody, please make sure you're muted. You don't need your camera on. We're not watching anybody. This is a twice weekly training session that I do every Tuesday and Thursday at 3 o'clock Eastern. These sessions are typically geared for the subscribers of Clearlines and Equity Alerts, or for those that have interest in learning more about Clearlines. Usually these sessions are user driven. They're geared for answering questions and about really how to use the MedVed Trader platform, the platform that we run the Clearlines on. But periodically, I do offer a special training session. We did one a week and a half or so ago on money management. And I'm going to try to do a little more frequently additional kind of focused training sessions. And so, again, today we are focused on going over VWAP and weekly pivots and how to set them up and how to use them to your advantage. If you have questions, you can submit those through the GoToMeeting chat. And again, my name is Kipp Cohen. I am one of the co-owners of equity-alerts.com and Clear Trading Systems that owns the Clearlines indicator. I've been a trading educator for over 20 years. Was with WiseTrade for 17 years and over 17, and have been with partnered with Equity Alerts over 2 years ago. Actually, I guess it's been more like 19 years, almost 20 years. So anyway, I want to welcome you all. Thank you for joining me today. And so let's get started. So what you're looking at right now, just so you understand, you're looking at the MedVed Trader platform. It is a third-party trading platform that we at Equity Alerts utilize. It's the platform that I run Clearlines on, which is the indicator that I created to basically replace the WiseTrade algorithm when WiseTrade shut down. And hold on, let me just show you real quick. You can turn off candlesticks. The reason we ended up choosing MedVed, and the reason we've stuck with MedVed, is because their platform is very, even though there's a little bit of a learning curve to it, it's very powerful. It allows us to do a lot of things, ton of things that we could never do before with the old WiseTrade platform. Hold on one second. So yeah, there are a lot of things that that we can do that we couldn't do before. So prior to using this, when we were using WiseTrade, we had to use two different platforms basically. One platform for traditional technical indicators, and then another one for WiseTrade for the Y-Straight algorithm. And so now we don't have to do that. We can add other indicators. And that was actually back in the Y-Straight days when we were using I can't even think right now, but the platform that we had that had technicals on it. We started using pivots, just the daily pivot point, and a few other indicators. So over the last couple of years, we have added a lot of additional Lightwave. Thank you, Club. Yeah, it took me a second. I remembered Lightwave. Yeah, the Lightwave platform allowed us to use traditional technicals, but it was limited in certain aspects. So over the last 2 years, we've been refining our trading. I mean, same strategies, but we've been refining our interface. We've been adding some technicals. We've make some adjustments here and there, and then with MedVed, it lets us do some things that we could never do before, using some charts where you can calculate using pre and post market data, some don't. So it affects some of the numbers. It lets you see things in many different aspects. One of the indicators, and I want to say it was Lindsay Perry, the Medicate kid, my partner at Equity Alerts, his son actually, I don't know if it was Kevin or Christian, but one of his sons actually started using volume weighted average price. And so we added that in and started discovering how amazing this indicator was. Amazing for a couple reasons. One, it's a great potential target. You know, when you get in a trade and you're trying to figure out where the stock's going to move to, volume weighted average price is a phenomenal indicator. It's also a good indicator for a potential turning point. So when it hits it, to look to go the other way. So real quick, just so some of y'all understand, volume weighted average price, and I'm just reading you from Investopedia, is a trading benchmark used by traders that gives the average price a security has traded at throughout the day, based on both volume and price. It is important because it provides traders with insight into both trend and value of a security. The volume weighted average price appears as a single line on an intraday chart, similar to how a moving average looks. Retail and professional traders may use the VWAP as part of their trading rules for determining intraday trends. And the formula VWAP is calculated by adding up the dollars traded for every transaction, price multiplied by the number of shares traded, and then divided by the total shares traded. Okay, that's how it's calculated. So I don't have it on the left chart. I have it on my right chart. You'll notice this is a 1 minute chart and a 3 minute. And then you don't see I have additional 2 more charts that I'll pull over because you're only looking at one of my monitors, but I also have a 10 minute and a 2 minute. So the 3 minute chart, this very lightish, grayish, whitish line right here is what is the volume weighted average price, VWAP. Down here on Netflix, VWAP, okay? Depending on your platform, so on MedVed, you just go into main and indicators, or you can right click, and then you go down to where you find volume weighted average price, and then you add it to your chart, which it's already on here, right? Whoops. Well, we're on the 1 minute, so I don't have it on the 1 minute. But if you want to add it, you just double click it and then click OK. Oh, no, I do have it on here. Why is it? Hold on. Oh, it's right there. I didn't see it. I couldn't see it. It's right up here, VWAP. Yeah, I already had it on there. So it's this line. I want to give you some examples because there were some great ones this morning that I was watching and actually trading. So Let me, hold on. I need to switch over real quick. This morning, I want to look at BA and I want to look at Facebook. And I'm going to put my candlesticks back on. The neat thing is you can turn candles on and off with MedVed. So this morning, and I got to do one other thing. I got to turn off something so it doesn't keep moving up on me. I got to turn off. Okay. There's an auto scroll feature. Okay, so this morning, and I'm going to expand this so you can see bigger. I had a short on Boeing, and actually at the time I was actually looking at a half-minute chart. Again, one of the other benefits to using MedVed is that we can use shorter time frames, less than a minute. So in the first hour, I go to a half minute just because of the volatility. So you can see here's my half minute from this morning. So BA was running up and it had hit a peak and actually had given a little down arrow. So I shorted at 172.26. So when I shorted it, I had to think about, well, where is my potential profit target? Where am I going to get out of this trade? You know, because at the time, if you scroll, let me scroll, hold on. Let me scroll. Okay, so here was my entry, right? Right here. So I have to guesstimate, well, where am I going to potentially get out of this trade? Where am I going to profit? Well, I saw right here, volume weighted average price, this line. So I set a limit right at VWAP, 171.06. 171.06. I set a limit. I think I set a limit. And the other thing that happened to be there was this green line, which is one of the pivots that we use, Fibonacci resistance. So this was confluence. Let me circle this so you can see right here. There was confluence of VWAP and confluence of the Fibonacci resistance point. So this gave me a target. And risk to reward wise, it was a good one because I knew my risk. My reward far exceeded my risk. And then literally within a minute and a half, it hit that target. And you'll notice it did go a little below it, but then it bounced up and went higher, right? It went up a little bit higher and then it rolled back over. And that's okay. You know, I look at it this way. You're never going to get in at the top and out at the bottom. You're trying to get a piece of the middle, and I felt like I had a very good piece of the middle. But what this did is it gave me a target. It gave me something to look for to figure out where I could potentially get out of that trade. I believe, and I'll have to pull my other chart up. Hold on, from my other window. So the other indicator, so on these charts right now, you're going to see a lot of different pivots. We use actually 3 different pivots on my 1 and 3 minute chart. We use a standard daily pivot. We use something called a demark pivot. So pivot points, that's the standard daily pivots. The demark pivots, and then we also use Fibonacci pivots. These are all on daily charts. On my 2 minute chart, which is off to the side, I also use those same 3 pivots, but instead I've switched them to weeklies. So in your platform that you trade with, and this is on MedVed, when you open up the parameters for each pivot, you're going to see the period. You have a choice. You can do daily, weekly, or monthly. They even have one called option expiration. I've never used that. So my partner Jim started using weekly pivots because they tend to be a little wider than your dailies. And he's noticed that a lot of times you catch these bigger moves, they run to the weekly pivots or they turn at the weekly pivots. So you would add the pivot point and then switch it to weekly depending on your platform. So here, this one's weekly. I haven't looked on Thinkorswim to see how that functions. There's the Fibonacci weekly. See, this is what I love about MedVed because it makes it real simple. So my 2-minute charts have weekly pivots, and I think this morning, did it? Actually, it had the weekly, underneath it, it had the weekly Fibonacci resistance right here. And I think there's another one hiding behind it. Looks like sometimes two of them are on top of each other. Hold on. Yeah, so there's a weekly pivot point, and there's also Fibonacci pivot are on top of each other. So had I not taken my exit at VWAP, it actually came down to the weekly pivot. And you'll notice that it kind of gravitated most of the day around that weekly pivot. That was a powerful indicator as to where BA was going to go today. So I took profit here, but had I been more patient, or I could have gone, actually what I could have done, had I been watching it, I could have gone back in when it dipped down and retested VWAP, because again, stocks will go back to VWAP. When they break it, they usually go back to it. So you'll notice right here, it went back to volume weighted average price, and then it sold off and went to the weekly pivot. 2 weekly pivots, Fibonacci resistance, and I can't tell what the other one is hiding behind it. Hold on. Let me erase this. What I have to do is I have to hide. Let me hide the Fibonacci. Let me hide it. See, R2 is hiding behind that. Sometimes they're right on top of each other. So the weekly pivot of R2 and the weekly pivot of Fibonacci resistance were both hiding right there, or they were both on top of each other. That was the confluence of two indicators. Whoops. Show indicator. There we go. So see that there were two. So this ended up being even the bigger move. Like Jim likes to capture bigger moves. This is one he probably would have caught. All right. So that's on my 2-minute chart. All right. So the next one I want to show you was Facebook. Facebook had a short this morning at 276. Again, here's my half minute. Ran up, actually hits this is the high of the first 5 minutes. I use we have another indicator, first 5-minute high, first 15-minute high low range. We use those for drawing our Fibonacci levels, but it went up to the first 5-minute high, rolled over, got a down arrow, short, 267.09. So again, I have to figure out where's it going to go. Well, right here, I had volume weighted average price and I had fib resistance. So I had confluence. I had confluence of two different indicators to give me a potential target. And that's where it went. And then it flew right back up and then came back down. That ended up being, that was a short at 267.09, out 266.37. That was a 72-cent move. It was $1.20 on BA and 72 cents. So what happens is when things are moving fast, what you do is you set a limit right at those levels to pick up your exit. And especially when things are moving extremely fast, they shoot down and shoot back up. It allows you to get out quickly. Now let's look on the 2-minute and see if that weekly pivot had anything down at those levels. So here's the weekly pivot. All right, weekly pivots. Okay, we also had right here Fibonacci resistance. Actually, that was below. So this one actually shot down. It went below. Let me draw. It went below VWAP and actually touched a weekly pivot before bouncing. That Fibonacci resistance weekly pivot. And then look what it did most of the day. It gravitated to that weekly pivot, weekly pivot, weekly pivot. Okay. That's the Fibonacci resistance. So that became a very good point of inflection for, or point of where Facebook wanted to gravitate to most of the day. And it gave me a profit target this morning. The reason I'm showing you this, guys, is that when you're in a trade and you're trying to figure out where to lock in profit, especially at the open when things are moving really fast, or where to set limits, this is what's going to help you figure out where to put those orders. All right. I'm going to give you an example of one that I actually got into. I set my stop too tight. I got taken out with a loss, and then it turned out to be a winner. So ATVI this morning, ATVI rolls over right here. I short it at 82.79. My stop was just a tad too tight. I got stopped out at 83.05. And then what did it do? It goes a little higher, it rolls over, and then where does it go? Right to VWAP, right here, 82.30. It went literally within a couple pennies. Bounced up a little bit. It also was the DMH, the DMARC halfway point. DMARC high. Now, yeah, DMARC high. There's DMARC low, center, and high. So again, confluence, it goes to confluence. Stocks tend to move. When you get multiple points, stocks will gravitate back to those levels. And it doesn't look like ATVI has gone back to, oh, did it get back there? Almost. It hasn't gravitated back. Nope, it has not gone back. Almost. Nope. So again, yeah, so it hasn't gone back to it. And let's look at ATVI on the 2-minute with the weekly pivots. So here's where it touched and then bounced. Well, guess where it gravitated most of the day? on the weekly pivot of Fibonacci resistance, right? Right here, that line. This is where ATVI has been going back and forth through that weekly pivot. It lets you see things that will guide you and help you understand where stocks are going to go to. All right. Let's look at another one. I notated several this morning. When? Oh, here's another one. I got out with a small profit, long. Here's a long. And it ended up going to my target. So when this morning, nope, when was a little later. Later in the day. Right here. When had bounced off a bottom, hit a bottom, right in here. Found the bottom, got long, 71.27. Again, I'm trying to figure out where's it going. I actually initially had a target at VWAP, 71.70 level, 76, 77, right? Right in here. That was my target. So it ran up when I got in. It did pull back and then it started to run, and I decided it was right back at this level, and I bailed out. I kind of bailed out. I took a profit, but I should have trusted myself, because look what it did. It went to VWAP. It actually ultimately went there. And it actually, look at that, just traveled back and forth across the VWAP. Most of the day, it's been traveling in and out of VWAP. Let me go to a 1 minute. Actually, we're going to go to the 2 minute. So most of the day, when has traveled, here's VWAP again. Most of the day, it's been traveling back and forth around VWAP. Whoops, sorry. So here was the entry down here, goes to VWAP right here. And I should have been a little more confident, because when it broke above the weekly DMC, the weekly DMARC's center line right here, which was also at the bottom of the first 15 minutes, that was a good spot. That was great support right here. I should have seen that, and I didn't. Right here. That's these two levels. That dashed red line. And then did it get, and you had fib pivot on the weeklies up here. Did it get there ultimately? No, it got close. Oh, it went back up to the first 15-minute high. The reason we use the first 15-minute high lows and the first 5 minute, because when I draw Fibonacci levels, I go to my first 15-minute, and then I can see the high and low of that range for drawing the fib extensions. And then, again, there's that support, the bottom of the first 15. So when it broke that, that was a good signal that I probably should have stuck with it. And it actually went all the way up to the 50% fib. That's something else that we use a lot. We look at different Fibonacci. I actually haven't used this as much as we used to. We used to use a lot more. Things have been moving really fast lately, and I just haven't been drawing my Fibonacci levels. All right, so we're halfway through. Any questions so far about fib levels and pivot points? VWAP and weekly pivots. Any questions so far? All right, so let's apply it to real time now. Okay. Let's apply it to real time. Let's look and see if we can find some things Let me fix something real quick. Let me go back in and adjust this one setting in case I accidentally scroll off a chart. So it automatically scrolls back. Okay, so here's a great example, right? Facebook. First of all, let's also draw our first 15-minute fib levels, just so you can see them, right? All right, so Facebook, here's our volume weighted average price right here. And I'm gonna go off of this chart. I'm gonna go over to the 2-minute and load that up so you can see on a 2-minute chart because that has the weekly fibs, weekly pivots. But here's a weekly pivot down here. So had you shorted, here's your target, right in here, right earlier. Your target was here. Had you shorted up here on this rollover, your target's right here, or second target's right there. Joe says weekly levels on fibs, pivot points, and demarks, great addition to the toolkit. Thank you. Yeah, they're phenomenal. How is the VWAP affected by VIX? Charles wants to know. I don't think there's any effect by the VIX because it's only looking at individual stock price and volume. So the VIX doesn't really come into play with VWAP. Now you could let me erase that. Let me scroll backwards just so we can again look. So again, your roadmap throughout the day, and I'm going to go to a little. Let's go to current day. There you go. Here's all of today. So real clear. You've got a clear roadmap, right? Using the tools that we use, right? So potential targets. If you're long, potential take profit. If it breaks down below, you need to find a profit target down there on a weekly pivot. First 15-minute high, right near the 100 of the Fibonacci's of the first 15. These fib levels will give you right in here targets, targets, targets. If you break here, so here's another thing. When you break through VWAP, right, you can get long on the break, and then here's your target right up here. It's real clear. And look what we just did. We just went right through the VWAP right here. Just now, broke it, touched it. So I don't have weekly VWAP. I have, this is just daily. There's not a, I don't, there is a, we don't have access to a weekly VWAP. The VWAP is only based on the day. Hold on a second. Yeah, the VWAP does not there's not a value for weeklies. It's just daily. So the VWAP, it doesn't matter which chart you're on. If you put volume weighted average price on a 1 minute, 2 minute, 3 minute, it's going to be the same no matter what. The difference is the pivots. If you choose daily or weekly, those will be your variance. So this 2-minute chart is the one that I run my weeklies on. And on this chart, the only one that's here is this one right in here. Hold on, let me delete the fib. The fib resistance. This is a weekly fib right here, and that's where you saw a lot of traveling back and forth all day long through that weekly fib on that weekly Fibonacci pivot all day long. Facebook has been going back and forth through that. Does that make sense? Regarding pivots, what parameters have you checked? So Wayne wants to know. I use on the regular pivot points, I do R1, R2, R3, R4, S1, S2, S3, S4, and pivot. And then I select show line labels, show line prices. So I want to see all 4 levels plus pivot point. On DMARC, I just have the 3, center, high, low, show lines, show line prices. And on Fibonacci, I have all 3 levels plus pivot, R1, R2, R3, S1, S2, S3, pivot, show line labels, show line prices. Troy wants to know, how would these pivots be applied in order to find swing or position trade? So you probably would want to use the weeklies or maybe even monthlies, Troy, I think, to find your swing targets. Or you might have to go to like a daily chart. So that's a good question, because swing trading is a whole different animal. Let's go through that real quick. Let's just go to a historical chart of Facebook. So this is the daily chart of Facebook. So I would say on a daily, you would add the pivots, and you can put all 3 on: DMARC, Fibonacci, and pivot points. And then I guess you would want to go with monthlies, or probably monthlies. Let's look at the monthlies to see how those. I've never really tried, so I don't know. But I would think you would want the monthlies. So here's your monthlies, right? Hold on, here's your monthly pivots on, yeah, I think you want to use monthly pivots on your daily chart, on your historical daily chart. That would help you to see potential targets, because those are going to be bigger moves. And if you look back, when Facebook ran up, here it went to R2, here it went to Fib R1 before reversing, bounced off FS2 up to pivot point. You can see how it follows some of these levels. No, Alex, you don't have to unlock, but what you'll have to do is once you add them, you'll need to resave your layout. You don't have to unlock it. Unlock it is just when you move the charts around, but you will have to resave your layout. That's all you have to do. Add them and resave it. So what's another? Let's look at Tesla. Yeah. Let's look at Apple. So here, Apple, right? Look where that reversal was, right up here. You had 2 of them, R1 and Fibonacci resistance 2, was right where that big reversal occurred on Apple. That was a big reversal after a huge run up. That was a big reversal. That was actually the beginning of the month, because the new monthlies got drawn, I guess, at the beginning of that month. So you'll notice that some of them they go past. These are going to start, I believe they're going to draw at the beginning of each month, and then they'll stay all month long. They get drawn at the beginning if you're using the monthly. There's a quarterly too you could look at. We can look at quarterlies and see if there's anything in the quarterly. There's even a yearly also. And I'm not much of a swing trader, but um, I'm going to say that the for swing trading, your best bet's going to be using those monthlies, pivots. And there's going to be periods, where like, you can see some months they go above it. They'll the end of that month it broke it. But you can go back in time and look. You can scroll backwards and see how it was affected. Sometimes it breaks it. So just realize when you're above those levels, you just have to watch it more closely. Look at Zoom, which has been nuts this week, up and down 20, 30 points. Yeah, Zoom's pretty crazy. So last month, see, so there's going to be some months where the monthly pivots aren't going to be that great because it goes, you know, or it's way up above somewhere. Why am I stopping at R2? Why is there not, hold on. Why am I not getting, oh, you know what? That's weird. Well, that would help. There we go. I didn't realize those weren't checked. Hold on. Let me go back. I didn't even, for some reason, oh, hold on. You got to make sure all of them are checked. See, they weren't all checked. Hold on. This is going to change things. Let's go. We'll have to go back now. I didn't realize they weren't all checked. Okay, now, aha. See, Zoom went to R4. Let's go back to Apple. This makes a big difference. Apple, oh, look, yeah, there's R1. So now that I've got all of them in there, you can see a little more clearly. R3, that helps. So I think, Troy, the monthlies would be best for swing and then maybe quarterly or annuals for position. Yeah, this is perfect for swing. This would be, now that I have them all in there, it works better. Let's look at Facebook. Yeah. Sorry, guys. I was wondering why I couldn't see all of them. This is much better. Yeah. Now you have better targets, right? Is there any correlation between the conventional average true range and the VWAP range? So remember, VWAP, Charles, is not technically a range. It's a price level where stocks tend to gravitate, price volume level, where stocks tend to move back to. ATR is the range that a stock tends to move between the high and the low intraday. So I can add in average true range, and then it's down here at the bottom. Whoops. So $8 is the ATR in Facebook. $7.99. Actually, I think I'm going to save this as my new save as let's save as historical chart chart with monthly pivots. It's good to save it when you can save a chart. That way you can go back to that. So now we have the monthly pivots on this chart. It's gonna look a little weird when you go to the month and the week. You only want to look at that on your day. You don't want to look because it's gonna still be the day the monthlies when you look at the week in the month. So you'll want to remove it on those other charts. So you'll notice, look where, look where win's been gravitating, volume weighted average price. Look where Facebook's gravitating, volume weighted average price. Stocks move back to those levels. When you're looking for a potential profit target or you're looking where to find a potential turning point, look to volume weighted average price because stocks tend to gravitate back. When a stock gets extended way beyond, all right, way beyond, sometimes they don't come back to it. Netflix, way beyond, it's 10 points away. It's not coming back today. It's not. But yeah, there's not even it's a long way away from anything. Sometimes you're going to have stocks that are going to be, I call it no man's land. They're just not coming back to those levels. They're not going to get there, not anytime soon. So you end up, sometimes you have to use something else to figure out your profit target. You might have to use Fibonacci levels, right? When all else fails, do the first 15-minute fibs. Oh, looky here. Netflix is approaching. Hold on, let me go back into the. Okay. Netflix is approaching the 2618. Now, I'm not going to trade it. There's only less than 15 minutes to go in the day, and it's breaking. But that's where you look for potential targets. Actually, earlier in the day, when I got short up here, it came right down, look at this, to fib resistance, right there, fib resistance. Now that's a daily. That's not the that's not the weekly. That's the daily, right? It was actually down here was R3 on the weekly. It broke out. That was a breakout point. Actually, I should have gone long here instead of I was short. I should have turned it and gone long when it broke the weekly. So there's things that you can look for breakouts, breakdowns, break of a weekly pivot for breakouts for going long, or actually let's go back to this. So I thought it was going to reverse here. I took a short, got stopped out. It actually started to drop and then ripped right back up. But this breakout of that weekly pivot could have been a good place to get long, right? Because that's a $6 move up. And there's nothing else up above it as far as weekly pivots. And I had targets if I was using my fib levels. I had a 200 and the 2618. So instead of, or what I should have done is hit the reverse button, gone long, first target here. When it broke it, or when it came down and tested it, could have gone long right up to the next fib level, right? Yeah, you can use, so VWAP is used for breakouts also. Yes, Charles. Breakouts, because there are instances where break out from it. So here was a breakout of VWAP right here. Oops. This was a breakout, or it came down and tested it and then broke out. So yeah, you can use it for breakouts. See, tested. Actually, this was good because you were on the 618 of the first 15. So it double bottomed. It didn't quite get to it, and then it turned up and ran. So that actually would have been a much better long. Breakouts, breakdowns. Yeah, absolutely. Um, it, do you guys have we got about 10 minutes left. Are there some stocks you guys would like me to look at for you to analyze using the tools, using VWAP and weekly pivots? Joe says, do you feel like you learn something new every week with these tools? Yes, absolutely. I'm constantly, you have to. You have to. Yeah. I mean, like Jim adding the weekly pivots is great because it's a whole nother, I mean, it just gives you a whole something totally different to look at as potential targets. I mean, I think we've done pretty good with what we have. And you know, you guys that know how Jim's been doing, Jim's been trading phenomenally lately. Just amazing. Jimmy, as we call him now, Jedi Jimmy, he's been using these weekly pivots. His trading has just stepped up to a level, whole new level. All right, so let's view current day so we can kind of see what's going on here today. And so Nike, most of the day, look at this, just kind of kept coming back to VWAP all day long, coming back to VWAP. So it sold off from the open, traded below it, came up to it. So if you got long off the bottom this morning, that was your target, right? Let me draw it. If you got long off the bottom and you're trying to figure out where it was going, there's your target. And then you shorted it potentially. And then if you got long again, there was your target, right? It spent most of the day kind of jig-jagging through it. No weekly pivots on, sorry guys, about the dog in the background. Overstock for Troy. Wow. So all day long, look at this. You had overstock above VWAP most of the day. It dipped below once and then came back above. So when it dipped below and then came back through it, here's your long. Long and strong for the afternoon. Long and strong. And then when you broke through right here, R1 on the weekly, that kept you in the trade. And look where we're now, right at fib resistance. So we gravitated to a weekly levels, weekly Fibonacci resistance, right? So this morning we had a pause at R1 and then we broke it. And then we stayed above most of the day, VWAP. Dipped below it, but the breakout was here. So you can see where these levels give you points of inflection, points to get in, points to take profit, points to build on or add to your trades. You know, if you got long down here, right here, and then when it broke this, you could add on, right? Add right here. Add on the break for those that like to do that. Alan wants to look at Peloton. Yeah, Peloton's been a stinking freight train all day long. Wow. Peloton all day long. Look at that. Above VWAP. It came down to it finally this afternoon. bounced off of it twice. Take care, Troy. Thanks, buddy. So look at that, twice. It actually got back to it, and then it bounced off of it. It double bounced off of it. And you had DMH on the weekly right up here. That's where pretty much it topped out. Can you look at FlowDime? Do you see a continuation for tomorrow? Hit 815 and then retrace, sitting on VWAP currently. Market's pretty much running right into the close, by the way. So look at FlowDime, Joe. Well, look what it's done all day long. Nothing. Just been gravitating right to volume weighted average price. So we had a run up this morning, but it came back and it just stuck like glue all day long. As far as what it's going to do tomorrow, let's look at the weeklies. And let's go to that, to the daily chart. Well, let's first look at the trend. The monthly is okay. It's not great. The weekly is okay. The daily, trend-wise, it's not bad. Now let's go to that chart that we created. Load with the monthly pivots. So you've got a DMARC high at right at 820. Does it have some room? Yeah, it's got room. But it hit that. There's your first stumbling block, 820. You got another stumbling block at fib resistance, 8.5 range. Another one at 9. You start to see, all right, these are my targets or my potential turning points. There's boom, boom, boom. They just go to those levels. And you can see in the past where it's gone to, yeah, I mean, to me, it looks decent. I think it's got potential. I definitely think it's got potential. Amazon. Let's take a look at Amazon. Amazon. Oh, I had a great short on Amazon earlier. 3207 down to 3197.98. 9 points right there. That's when the market sold off. And look where it came down to. Right here, VWAP. It clustered VWAP and then took off. Look at that. Clustered VWAP, took off. They love to go back to that volume weighted average price, and they either break out or break down. So you use that volume weighted average price as a target to take profit or as a breakout point to get long. Boom. And look at this. Pretty much right where I exited today, you had a weekly fib resistance in R1 right in here. So I picked I could have got a little more out of it, but God, that moves so fast. This was a great exit point because that was a big confluence. VWAP, fib resistance, and R1 on the weekly. And I bet if I draw fib levels on a 15-minute time frame, hold on. Oh yeah, right there, the 100. The bottom of the first 15. It kept gravitating to the bottom of the first 15 minutes all day long. That was a big level. And look where we're at now, the 127 of the first 15 minutes. These levels, guys, I'm telling you, first 15-minute Fibonacci extension. We didn't even go over that today. Volume weighted average price, weekly pivots will blow your mind. It'll open up your mind to more possibilities where things are going. Market's closed. And it's the gift that keeps on giving, guys, using these points. We'll look at a couple more stocks and then we'll call it a day. Let's look at Walmart. Walmart. This morning, you had a bounce, right? Oh, here was a great place to be long. Oof. Right here. Right here. Why? Because it came down to VWAP and it came to fib resistance and it came to the bottom of the first 15 minutes. And I think there's a resistance too. R2 is hiding behind there too. The weekly R2. You had huge confluence, big bounce point, boom, and then just ripped. And it finally came back to VWAP right here. Finally came back to VWAP. So could have played long off of VWAP here. Or if you shorted the double top right here and you're trying to figure out, well, where the heck is this going? Where do I get out? Guess what? 1 point right here at R3, 0.2 VWAP. So you got a first target and a second target. And where does it kind of hang out? Gravitates right in those levels and then goes into here, gravitates in there. They go to these levels, gravitates to that level. Where did we close the day? Just above VWAP. They move back and forth to these levels all day long. One more. We'll do one more. Let's do somebody pick a stock. Let's do Baidu. I didn't look at Baidu today. And then we'll look at AMD for Paul, and then we'll call it a day. All right, Baidu. Let's see. So let's say you got long this morning off of, here's your weekly Fibonacci down, Fibonacci pivot. Hold on. Bottom, went a little below it. So if you got long, where's your target? VWAP. If you got long again, where's your target? VWAP. Or you play the breakout. Breakout. Boom. If you got short up here, where's your target? VWAP. If you got long, you didn't have a target. If you got short, where did we end the day? VWAP. All right, one more. AMD. So most of the morning, look what AMD did. Just chopped back and forth. Finally broke out right here. But most of the day, it just chopped. Chop, 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 broke out. Broke out, never came back. It went right to fib resistance right here, actually. Got to fib resistance. Boom. So there was your target if you were long. Hey, this stuff is just, it's makes it so crystal clear. You get such a beautiful path to figure out where things are moving. All right, guys, I would like to thank you all for tuning in. If you have additional questions, you're welcome to send me an email, kipp@equity-alerts.com. You can call or text me as well, 972-841-8886. I did record this session. It will be posted later today to our YouTube page. I do this session every Tuesday and Thursday at 3 o'clock Eastern. I welcome you, for those that are here for the first time, to come back. It is an open forum. Most weeks we just cover different topics. I'm going to try to do more segmented training sessions, but anytime you're welcome to join in. If you'd like to try out our alerts, we do give a free 7-day trial. And have a great afternoon, and thank you again. I will see some of you guys in the morning. Have a nice evening. Bye-bye.